Good morning. Request all of you to be seated, please. Very good morning to all of you. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of Unnati Foundation. I would like to request Dr. S.K. Gupta, Chief Executive Officer, ICMAI Social Auditors Organization, to start the event. Mr. Rajesh Dangeti, Chief General Manager, SEBI. Please join us on the stage, sir. Ms. Prajakta Moni, Partner, Blue Sky LLP. Please join us on the stage, ma'am. Dr. Ramesh Swami, Director, Unnati Foundation. Please join us on the stage, sir. I would like to request Dr. S.K. Gupta to take over.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this orientation and awareness session on social stock exchange being organized by ICMAI Social Auditors Organization, which is a subsidiary company of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and recognized by SEBI in the context of social stock exchange. We welcome Sri Dangeti, Chief General Manager from SEBI, Madam Prajakta from Blue Sky LLP, Social Impact Assessor, Mr. Ramaswamy, Founder Director, Unnati Foundation, to this particular program, where we are looking at providing basic information about social stock exchange, its evolution, advantages, process of registration and listing, and more importantly, to answer some of the queries that you people may have. So we have structured the program in such a manner that we want to make it interactive so that end of the day, we all take away something from this program in terms of better knowledge, better awareness. Now, to set the context for this program, India is today the fourth largest economy of the world in terms of the GDP numbers. And this is what we have achieved within a span of just about 78 years after obtaining independence. It's a remarkable milestone that India has achieved. 78 years in the life of a nation is not too long a period. But at the same time, there are many experts and there are many other people who believe that gaining a position of fourth out of 195 countries in the world in terms of GDP number is very significant, yes, of course. But that's not a true measure of the level of economic development of a country. GDP is an important measure, but not a true measure of the level of economic development of a country. End of the day, what matters is what is the quality of life that you offer to the people in the country. And this is in line with the philosophy and the thought process of United Nations also. They came out with 17 Sustainable Development Goals in 2015 with a view to focusing on improving quality of life of the people across different geographies over the entire planet with a view to creating a better place for all of us to live in. We are now looking at building Vikasit Bharat during Amrit Kal, the next 25 years, culminating with completion of 100 years of India's political independence, and we want to create inclusive and sustainable development. That means we want to make sure sabka saath, sabka vikas. Everyone should benefit from the development happening in the country. It should not only be restricted to a select few. We have to get the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid up. We have to get them into the mainstream so that benefits of development are enjoyed by all, irrespective of caste, creed, gender, whatever differentiation may be there. And for that, what we require is there has to be a focus on improving the quality of life of the people. Government is doing whatever it can do by way of various social welfare schemes. But India is very big in terms of numbers, population, geography, whatever you take. Government alone will not be able to do just about anything and everything that is required for improving the quality of life. So we also decided to mandate CSR expenditure for certain class of companies by way of amendment to Companies Act 2013. And besides that, there are 4 million, 40 lakhs civil society organizations operating in India, which are working at a grassroots level, providing last mile connectivity, trying to improve the lot of the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And these organizations are playing a very significant role in that direction. Now, many of you have come from those kind of contexts and those kind of backgrounds, civil society organizations, NPOs, NGOs. I know you are doing a great work, we all know that, but we also are aware about the kind of problems and challenges that you face. There are numbers, 15, 20 challenges, problems, somebody can count. I can also write down on a piece of paper. But practically speaking, there are 3 critical challenges that NPOs are facing in the marketplace today. One is the credibility issue. You're doing a great job. But then we all give donations every year to 2, 3 different organizations. But at the end of the day, there is some kind of a doubt in the mind of the donor. I don't know where my money is getting spent, whether it's getting into the right direction or not. What is the outcome, output, and impact of that project? Nothing, no report comes back to me. So there is some kind of a trust deficit. There is some kind of credibility issue which most of you possibly are facing. The second issue is that of visibility. You may be doing a great job in this part of the country, but how many people know you beyond 200 kilometers geography? Maybe 100 kilometers beyond, wherever you are operating, how many people know you? Not many possibly, because you don't have the visibility pan-India. And the third critical problem is that of financing. You have to identify donors, people who are prepared to commit funds for a particular project, and you got to go back to them time and again. It's not a one-time job. You got to go back to them time and again. Every time you have a new project, you got to approach them. Some of them may continue to give you over a long period of time. Some of them may discontinue after 1 year, after a few years, and then you have to again identify new people who are going to support your work, great work that you are doing out here. This issue was understood by the Government of India way back in 2019. And in the budget speech of 2019, Honorable Finance Minister of India made a statement that we want to connect and bring the benefits of capital market for the NPOs in the country also. So that why should they be left out? How Infosys, this center is supported by Infosys. How Infosys could become so big? That's because they got the support of the capital market. And similarly, other big companies. Why should NGO and NPOs be left out from that benefit? And that was the idea mooted by the Honorable Finance Minister in 2019. And thereafter, various committees were set up, working group was set up, technical committee was set up. Obviously, anything new takes time to evolve. It took SEBI 3 years, almost 3.5 years. On 25th of July 2022, SEBI made amendments in ICDR and LODR and paved the way for the creation of social stock exchange in India. Now we have a social stock exchange operating in both NSE and BSE. Now, how social stock exchange concept We're going to talk more about that. Other people are going to also talk about that. I just want to set the context and put the basic concept right. So the three key problems we identified: credibility, visibility, funding. How social stock exchange possibly is going to help you in that direction to quite an extent. So far as credibility is concerned, once an NPO gets registered with NSE or BSE, and there is a whole process of registration which has to undergo a very, very strict due diligence being carried out by the stock exchanges. Once you have been filtered through the due diligence process and your name starts appearing on a website of NSE and BSE, credibility and visibility automatically go up. People know that this is a credible organization. Once you give donation and once you give fund to this particular organization, there's now going to be compulsory mandatory periodical reporting of what is happening at the ground level. What is the impact that the project would have created at the ground level? You're going to get full information now, because that's the whole obligation and the compliance mechanism, compliance architecture, which is connected with the whole concept of social stock exchange. And once you register, the next step is that you can also raise funds through the platform of social stock exchange. And that process technically is called listing. Registration, listing. For the normal corporates, the process is you can directly list on the stock exchange. But in the case of NPOs, this is a two-stage process. First, you got to get yourself registered, and thereafter, the next step is you can also raise funds by and through the mechanism of social stock exchange. So, as of now, 200, almost about 200 approximately, NPOs have registered on NSE and BSE both put together. And 14 of them have also gone in for the next step, that is the listing, and aggregate amount raised so far is about 42 crores. That's where we are over a period of last about 3.5 years of the journey of social stock exchange. It's not that the concept of social stock exchange is new. Many other countries have experimented this concept, but in 5-6 different countries, the social stock exchange could not sustain, could not survive. It had been closed down. There could be many reasons, but primarily the two reasons are: one, that they decided to set up a completely standalone stock exchange with separate infrastructure, which required huge investment, and the size of the market there, the population, the country size, the NGOs, the donors, was not big enough to make the whole process feasible and economically sustainable. But then, because we are late starters, we moved into this space only about 3.5 years back. We took lessons. We learned the lessons from the mistakes of those countries. We decided to create social stock exchange within the already existing architecture of NSE and BSE, not making any further investment for a standalone stock exchange. And we have the numbers in our advantage. We have large number of NGOs, we have large number of donors, and that possibly is going to work better for us as the stock exchange process going through. So that's where I conclude my opening remarks here, and I would now request Mr. Dangeti, Chief General Manager from SEBI, to kindly share his perspectives and provide us guidance with regard to the regulatory perspective and the regulatory philosophy behind the whole concept of evolution of social stock exchange. Mr. Dangeti, please.
A very good morning to all of you. And thank you, ICMI, for calling me here. And it's indeed a great pleasure to be here in Bangalore for the very simple reason that it's a nice city and it's close to my heart for this, because I had done my studies here. I had done my 10th from KV Hebal. My dad was in Air Force, so he was working in Air Force Station Hebal. So me and my brother did my studies there. Thank you. And I do have a lot of childhood memories of Bangalore, and these are all those streets probably where I would have, cycled and had come to those places. And thank you, Gupta sir, for setting the context, because there are few things even I would like to, speak about myself and SEBI before I take on the social stock exchange, about social stock exchange. About SEBI, let me first start about it. Basically, we take pride in two, three things. We are a very open organization, though people call us as a government organization, even though it may be said so, but in terms of our speed of work, in terms of our some of those very important pillars, that is transparency, accountability, and enforceability, we take pride that we are actually at the highest peak in these aspects. If you look at any organization, not only in India but in the world, transparency is at its highest here. If you look at, I mean, I don't think anybody of you, if you have faced any issues with related to any of those SEBI intermediaries, I would be very happy to take a question that any of yours problems or issues have been left unresolved. That would be actually a question mark on us. Ki how did we leave this issue unresolved, or rather unanswered, I would say. So we don't allow that. Anybody comes back to us, we take care of that situation. It's a different situation that at times we may not be able to resolve to the satisfaction of the person, but yes, we would definitely be responding back, and we would be ensuring that your matter is taken care and taken to its conclusion. That's how it is. Any complaint that comes to us, I mean, you may have to show us a process anywhere else in the world where any person who writes to us, he can track his complaint. There's a mechanism, there's a website available there. You can lodge your complaint from any corner of the world after putting all those desired information, undoubtedly. And then you can track your complaint. And if you're unsatisfied with the response being given to you, you can push it back. Yes, you can push it back. You will take it up again. And still you are not satisfied with that. There's a mechanism available to go for a conciliation or a arbitration or all those things. But this I'm trying to put it in front of you to show the kind of transparency we believe in. Any new law we bring into the market, we go through a process. It's a process which we take pride in. We do a lot of consultation. We take the help of experts. Probably many of you here would have given suggestions, comments. We take them into consideration. Believe me, not a single suggestion is left out. There are times when we get thousands of comments, thousands of suggestions. We go through all of them. We ensure that all those suggestions are taken to a logical conclusion. Yes, it's a possibility that some of those suggestions might not have been implemented, but it doesn't mean that they have not been gone through. They have been gone through, but probably in the interest of the markets, in the interest of the investors, we find some of those suggestions probably much more valuable than the others, so those are implemented. So it's a very simple way of looking at it, whether your suggestion was looked into or not. Yes, it was looked into. Enforceability. When you talk about enforceability, you can see all our orders on the website. There's not a single order which SEBI has passed which would not be on the website. This is to show that whenever we take actions, we put it on the website. But sometimes it's a setback for us. You may be asking how? Because we have to pass a very speaking order. And we talk about a speaking order, all the modus operandi that has been followed by those wrongdoers will have to be shown there. So what happens? The next wrongdoer knows, okay, this is how the SEBI is going to catch me. So let me be careful about this and let me not repeat this. But we can't help it. This is how the law of the country works. So we have to actually ensure that we put everything in the public domain. And then we have to be try to be, if not, we can't be one step ahead of them. I'm sorry to say that. Sometimes we feel bad that, there is a lot of technology we use, but then even technology, sometimes we may not be having enough technology at our hands. There are so many government rules out there, so it doesn't allow us to, take help of all those technology that is available there. But still, I would say ki we are not, if not ahead, we are at least probably a few, one or two steps behind those wrongdoers. But then there have been instances where, some wrongdoers, probably because of a lack of, I wouldn't say evidence, but technically sometimes they get away with that. So, but that's how it is. Let me come back to the social stock exchange. I thought, let me set the context in the case of how SEBI functions, and you should all be knowing about it, because it's very important that today SEBI has been actually, in every nook and corner of the country. There is so much news about SEBI doing so many things. And about me, the department I work in, it's called Corporate Finance Department. And me and my department takes care of all the IPOs in the country. So any IPO that comes in the country, it goes through me. So you can be sure that we have gone through a good process of ensuring to look at it. There could be a lot of questions on valuations. I know a lot of people would be talking a lot about it, but that's okay. We don't mind responding to all those things. And not only about IPOs, we also take care of all those buybacks. Today, the buybacks have come down because of the government of India's change in the policy. Takeovers, any kind of new mergers and acquisitions, that's through a scheme of arrangement, we take care of it. Any delistings, all those things. So all these aspects are taken care by the Corporate Finance Department, including the Social Stock Exchange. Even this comes under us. So we have our plates full. So SEBI works on a very good, kind of working and understanding. And like Gupta sir mentioned about SEBI taking a good amount of time in terms of actually introducing the laws for the social stock exchange. Yes, it took some time because it was a new concept in India. And believe me, when we introduce a rule or a regulation into the market, we are very careful. And we look at all the aspects of it, and we try to ensure that when a rule is implemented, it stays there for a good amount of time. If you look, and as in terms of today, we have the advantage of technology on our sides. But if you look at SEBI's functioning, we have actually started using technology long time back, right from probably 1990s itself. There was a time when you had open outcry systems, which we converted into something called screen-based trading. So it was much ahead of its times. Then you had depository. Even today, in many parts of the world, you have depository not fully implemented in many countries. So ours is a country which is completely, dematalized. You don't allow a new security to come out unless it's in demat mode. So it's again a part of technology. And so these are some of the examples I wanted to give. So let me come back to this thing. So while many of you would be very familiar with the concept of social stock exchange, let me say that my effort today to place this entire social stock exchange in a broader context on a policy-driven policy, would be all about how have we implemented our regulations and how have we connected to each of you who are working on the ground. So we are the lawmakers. So but we have today here many of you out here who will be talking about what are the various challenges you face, and how you have implemented while trying to get listed on a SSC. So all those things, I think they will be explained to in detail. But let me put my context from the side of the regulations and what we are expecting, the markets and the people who are on the ground. What do we expect from all of you? When we talk about India's social ecosystem, we always speak a lot about scale, diversity, commitment. And when we talk about all these things, we know that there are a large number of NPOs out there who have registered. And the data suggests that there are around 3 lakh organizations which are registered on the Darpan, which is the government's portal. But when you have such a large number of organizations registered on Darpan, but there are so many out there probably who are still not registered, they may also have to come into that. But looking at these registered and NPOs, which are doing work in the various categories of our various walks of life, which is right from your healthcare, which is to do with your skill development, rural development, sanitation, women empowerment, environment sustainability, and several other priority areas. But actually, are they able to meet their requirements? So, what SEBI has done about it? I thought, let me speak something about that. So, alongside the scale and the commitment which many of you have shown in terms of running your NPOs, your NGOs, there lies a very persistent challenge, which I think he has articulated very nicely, of those three pillars which are very important. That is credibility, visibility, and funding. So here I am also going to talk something about those things which actually are embedded in the regulations which we have built in terms of the SSC and also in terms of the present process what we have put in place. So a lot of impactful work is being done by you. But what is happening out there, what we feel is that there's a lot of funding being required by the NPOs, and which is always, most of the times, what we have found is always informal, is fragmented, and is actually relationship driven. So what happens is that you may have to go out and reach someone and probably talk to them, right? So this is highly relationship driven. So unless you're able to form a relationship, because that's how you're able to show him or her the credibility, the visibility. So, but then is it sufficient? Because how long and how far can you go on these aspects of trying to do these things on a relationship driven basis? Then there's always a gap between what is the intent and what is the actual funding that you get, which is laying the foundation for the social stock exchange, because that's where we are coming from. So how do we do that? I will not dwell much on the genesis, but just to say a few things. Like he said, 2019 was when our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, she laid the foundation by announcing it in the budget about a social stock exchange. Actually, we were thinking about it even before that, because I was involved in some way prior to that, probably way back in 2-3 years even before that. But it didn't work out actually, because not much work was being done across the various other countries when we had seen there. So there were a few countries out there, but then not much impact was being made by them. But then we found that this concept has to be given some impetus, and that's where we thought, yes, this is the time now, we should look at it. And based on the budget announcement, we went ahead with that. Like you mentioned, today the SSC actually functions as a segment of a social stock exchange. So this segment actually is nothing new to us. We had also started SME segment in the exchanges. That was also done by our department, where I was involved actually, even setting up of a SME segment way back in 2011-12. And today it's very successful running. So if you look at it, if you look at the amount of time that took the SME segment to flourish, was quite some time. So probably around 13-14 years. So, but that was probably times when people didn't understand these concepts. But today you have a big number of people out there who understand this concept very well. So I hope it will take lesser time for the entire SSC to flourish. This entire SSC actually functions on two basic pillars of the regulations. One is the ICDR and second is the LODR. So when we talk about ICDR, it's all about disclosures, and LODR is all about post listing. How do you ensure that the disclosures are periodic, and where it is actually giving a meaningful insight to your donors? What have you done? What do you wanted to achieve? Have you achieved that? And whether what you're trying to achieve is what you have promised. So these are the pillars based on which the disclosures are required to be made. Then you have someone called a social impact assessor. They are the ones who are a third party, independent party, who will actually look at, how actually what you have promised and what you have achieved, is it on the right path? So this is how the entire, the concept works in a nutshell. If you look at the ICDR, it talks about, let me go slightly more granular in terms of what ICDR talks about. ICDR talks about eligibility conditions, who all can be an eligible entity in terms of trying to bring out a issue on the SSC segment, and what are all the permitted activities which are aligned with the national development priorities, and what would be the disclosure requirements at that juncture, at the time of the fundraising, and what would be the conditions which would be governing the utilization of the funds for which the funds are being raised. So these are the ICDR. These are in a nutshell. This ICDR provides these kind of requirements. So if you want to go into detail of it, yes, I mean there will be some. I hope these are being covered in a very good way to take care of the requirements of what this thing. Yes, I think so. That will be there. Then you look at LODR. That is, I'm sorry, I didn't, what do you call, expand these terms. I hope all of you understand. If you want, I don't mind expanding. LODR is all about listing obligations and disclosure requirements. It's the regulations which SEBI makes and which enforces on the companies which list on the exchanges, including the social stock exchanges. So when we talk about the listing obligations, subsequent to you getting listed on an SSE, you will have something to do with the periodic disclosures which you have to make, uh, the reporting of how much funds have been utilized, then the ongoing compliance requirements, whatever is required in terms of the various regulations under the LODR, those things, and the most importantly, the social impact reporting, which I talked about. So that is the most important part. Normally, when you talk about a listed entity, you talk about its financials. But unlike a financials in a NPO, when you talk about the NPOs, they will be required to look at the social impact. How have they reported and how have they given the assessment in terms of the funds utilization and the requirement of the issue when they raise the funds. So this is the very impact, and the impact outcome that actually gives a good amount of credibility. If you show that the impact outcome is what you had promised, it actually improves the credibility of the company. From the perspective of SEBI, we have been consistently actually ensuring that in case a new suggestion comes to us in terms of any problems being faced in any segments of the exchange listings, we are here to actually listen to them. Similarly, in case of an SSE, what are problems you have, we would always like to hear that. And we have always demonstrated a fantastic ability to actually listen to the stakeholders, give our responses, and probably bring in the changes, desired changes, and the required changes to the regulations. In this aspect, if you look at it, there was initially when we introduced those regulations, we had talked about the minimum issue size was 1 crore, which was subsequently reduced to 50 lakhs. And as regarded donor, application size, which was 2 lakhs, which we reduced it to 1,000 rupees. So if you look at it, if you compare it to the other listings on the stock exchanges, you would see that these are actually very, very minimal. So this actually shows our commitment that yes, how have we reacted to the market requirement and how have we brought it down actually. This is very important thing. So these are actually highly significant changes which actually open the platform to smaller and mid-sized NPOs who can come here and make up their issues actually. This has been done for the very simple reason that when you reduce those sizes and when you take care of the requirements of the issuers or the NPOs, what happens is that the participation increases. So that's what you're looking for. So, but today, the participation has not, reached a stage where I would call that, it is something which we can say that yes, we achieved a good amount of participation. But yes, probably we are on the path. So how do we achieve that? Let us see. So, sir, what figures I have, and probably what you had is slightly different, but maybe one of us is having the right figures, but doesn't matter because this is all about uh, giving, not only giving out figures to you, but also actually trying to ensure that this shows that where we are and where we need to reach. I understand that around 100 NPOs are registered on the exchanges, and around 14 have completed their listing and raised funds, and there are many in the pipeline. What we understand is that probably around another 15 are there in the pipeline who would be liking to, would be wanting to raise funds. But then, is it sufficient? Has it reached a flashpoint where we can say that, the good amount of NPOs? I mean, it's such a vast country. In terms of geography, in terms of population, in terms of GDP, like I said, I mean, we are so vast. But why are we still behind in this fundraising? So you all have to think through that. and do something about it. Now, from the perspective of benefits to the NPOs and to the donors and to the entire this social ecosystem, let me talk about a few things. When I talk about NPOs, those non-profit organizations, the SSC offers, more than just fundraising. It's all about registration on a SEBI-regulated platform, which itself gives a lot of credibility. It signals to the donors, that yes, all those donors who can be institutional funders, who can be individuals, that the organization follows the recognized standards of governance and disclosures. Because on a on an exchange, when you list, actually it gives that kind of credibility, which he has put it in nice words. I'm trying to put it in a slightly regulatory terms. This apart, when we talk about raising funds, this platform actually ensures, a structured project-based fundraising, which helps you to move towards, away from those ad hoc donations. What happens is that, a lot of you must be getting through ad hoc donations. So that probably, which may help to you, I don't know how, if it's helping you in this small way, but then this probably would be helping you in a much bigger way. So you should be looking at a very focused way of raising funds other than from going from the ad hoc ones. This apart, all those disclosure and reporting requirements also may, while it may appear to be demanding initially, but if you look at it, this actually helps organizations strengthen their internal systems, financial discipline, and impact measurement, which are again the very most important things when you talk about listing on a social stock exchange. And it actually gives a lot of those benefits, which may extend beyond a mere listing on a social stock exchange. SEBI has actually recently also, we have aligned the activities of the CSR of companies to the social stock exchange framework, but then a lot more work has to be done on there. So we are trying to look at those and how we'd be in a position to achieve that. So we are in touch with the government, trying to get those things, there, which probably would help more. But kindly await the outcome of those discussions with the government, and it should help us in the better way. Now let's look at the donors. When you talk about donors, today when you talk about donors, their contributions are made to an eligible NPOs. It actually gives them the, it becomes qualifying for the purpose of the ATG deductions of the Income Tax Act. Normally also you do get ATG, but then this is actually much more easier way because not much paperwork is required once you go through a SSC. So it helps in that. And once you know that this is possible through a listing on an SSC, it gives them actually much more confidence to invest more. So this, but only thing is that then people have to go for more numbers of listings. So only when NPOs go for more listings, probably more donations will come. So it's actually a cycle. And last but not the least, in this entire ecosystem, the role played by the social impact assessors. That's very important. While you have someone called your auditors who look at the financials of the company, similarly you have here social impact assessors who do the entire, looking at the company, yes, whether they have achieved what they have promised and whether the achievement has been done in a manner which can be more credible and gives a lot of confidence to the donors. So this is how their role is. And thankful to them that they are taking care of that. So that actually would drive the SSC in a much more better way. In the end, I would say only one thing before I close, that we would like to encourage more NPOs to come onto this platform and to explore the entire SSC ecosystem, not because it's as a fundraising, but as a means to strengthen governance, to build confidence, and to build donors' trust. So this is how I would look at. So probably you out there, all of you out there who are there today in good numbers, who are on the ground actually working on this. So let's all come together and do something about the social stock exchange. So thank you and Jai Hind.
So good morning to all of you all and welcome to Unnati. let me cover this talk of mine in two, three various aspects. One, quickly touch upon why SSC, because 2023, very early when it was told that yes, you can register, I thank God that talked to some of the officials because we were in touch, and it is a long-term view which Unnati took up. We knew that it is going to be a tough road, but we thought that this has a long-term perspective, and we said, let's do it. So three things already mentioned is about the, small organization. We are a very small organization. We're not very big. But what SSC definitely gave us is visibility, right? So before that was credibility. As many of you NGOs are sitting here, even today after 30 years, 40 years of work, what we have done so much of work, proved so many things, shown the world. We still go to somebody today and the question is asked, what are you doing with the money? How can I trust you? So, nobody asks a general manager of a company, are you doing good work? The promotion, the position says that they are doing good work, right? But whether you're a founder, whether you're a staff, you are continuously asked. So credibility was a very, very big issue. So we said, if this platform can give us credibility, fantastic. Visibility, we really did not know at that time, but we said, okay, yes, visibility should be there. Fundraising, yes, we were not sure how the money will come because even today, and I touch upon this on the funding aspect, even today, a large portion of the money is coming through known sources and not through unknown sources. So when a statement is being made by Gupta ji or Rajesh ji that the whole country opens out to pay you money, we are not seeing that happen, right? It's still not happening. And so a question comes, why do I go through this? So the issue of why as an NGO should I go through this trouble? I have my donors, they are giving me, they trust me. Why should I go through it? So this question can come up. And um, Rajesh very beautifully summarized the last portion. He said it's not about funding, it is about governance. And he slowly diverted the whole thing, but we will bring it back to funding, right? Um, yes, so we started off, and in 23, around, we were among the first to get registered. It was very simple. So to answer one point of Rajesh, every document of Unnati with regard to SSC for registration, listing, the requirements in terms of LODRs, whatever disclosures are required, every single document is available on our website for NPOs. And I have to tell you this, I'm so glad we did it because so many people, so many NGOs across the country have benefited. The stand of NSC, BSc has been, you have some doubts, you can go to Unnati BLR website, SSC is there, you can go and see all the documents. So it has helped a lot of people. And DFRD, everything. We just filed the third DFRD, third listing, which happened on 24th. We have filed it. We are hoping to open the listing on around 20th of January. So this will be another record which we would be creating, that first, not just the first NGO in the country to be listed, the first to do it twice, the first to do it thrice. So thank you. So why, again coming back to that why, because I'm harping on the why today, because a lot of us sitting there will not understand the strength of it. I'll just draw a parallel of 2013. Our CSR law came in, right? It was very fluid. Many companies did not utilize the funds. They just wrote and said we could not utilize. Today, the independent directors, the CFO of a company, their hands are shivering if these things are not complied with. Things have changed, right? In a period of 10, 12 years, things have become different today. Or talking of CSR funding of India in the 30,000 crore kind of limits, right? So we believe that SSC has the strength to become extremely big if it is taken up properly. So 23 we listed it, we registered, and we were waiting for how can we list it, who will give us money. Luckily, there were a few people who said, we care for SSC and we want to do it. And people like Zeroda, Nabad, they all came in forward and said, and we took the advantage. We said, okay, let us try and list it. Believe me, we never thought that we will be anywhere in the first, because we were a small organization. We have hardly limited people. We have all volunteers working, including Surya sitting here. Everybody started working, and we got tri-legal kind of company. We had Unitas, all pro bono, because it was excitement. There was an excitement about it, and we actually made it happen. And around August is when we realized that we are the first. And December 13th, 2023, it happened. I will not go into the process of listing. It is a challenging thing. You require a legal people to help you because it has a legal language to be put in. So if you read the DFRD, many things. But I must say that, many people can have many views about SEBI, how stone-walled they are across the country and all that, but we could talk to them continuously, and it happened. Whether it was the issue of NCS, it was LODR issues of peer review, so many aspects, within hours or days it used to get sorted out. And that is why we could actually file our first DFRD on 25th of August 2023. So hats off to SEBI and the stock exchanges who were at it, who were pressurizing SEBI, because many times, as I told you, it's a stone wall. You cannot talk to them. But there were cases when SEBI used to call up and say, what is it exactly? We are not understanding. You're a lay person. Whom should we talk to? Who is your lawyer? Who is your merchant banker? Let me talk to them and understand your issue. And they sorted it out. So kudos to their proactive approach. This happened. In the process, what happened was 2022-23, Unnati was just trying to grow, and we did achieve 25,000 youth, 28,000 to be precise, during that year. That was the first year when we touched 28,000. But what happened during the 22-23 and SSC, everything was our impact measurement presentations improved. As an NGO, tell me one thing. Has your auditor ever in your career signed the balance sheet even 10 days before the last date? It will happen only the previous day before the last day. That also we have to plead with him. The books would have reached him in April or May. He will sign it on 29th of September, saying that, sir, too many things are there, sir. 29th September night, he is signing for us, and we are filing it on 30th. Right? Suddenly, things are changing. We told our auditor, sir, I am listed. Oh, you're listed. Oh, then I have to be very careful. Oh, then I will put one person. We will do quarterly reviews. And then come by February, I will do till December. April, I will complete it, because May 31st was the last day. Right? So the bookkeeping improved. Our governance improved. My entire staff suddenly looked up, oh, we are doing something great. Right? So what they had to do probably tomorrow, they did it today. So things internally changed. Internally changed. Our own understanding of impact measurement changed. And I must credit it to Prajakta and Blue Sky, Jyotsna, for teaching us a lot of things. For teaching us a lot of things. They said, you are not, why are you not capturing this? Why are you not capturing this? Why are you not doing this? So we learned so much during that 22-23. And that helped us
When we presented our 24 years to companies, it helped us indirectly. I wouldn't want to say that companies gave me money because of this thing. I don't think that has happened yet. Because one of the areas where probably we should be doing much more is who NGO knowing about SSC is one aspect of it. I feel that NGOs will definitely come into SSC when they start seeing money. Right? So whom are we supposed to educate? We are supposed to educate the companies, we are supposed to educate the CSR groups, everybody, because even today a CSR person will ask us 100 questions in spite of our being in this. He still asks, right? So at no point of time the companies, the regulatory in the company, the compliance officers in the company, the CFO, the company secretary, they still have not understood that SSC, if you are there, you have at least crossed 60% or 70% of the hurdle. We still don't have that kind of credibility established. So it is definitely an important thing that companies understand it than the NGOs. We are concentrating on the NGO part of it in a very big way. And I think NGOs know about it, but they are not ready to jump in just because the money is not available. So the companies come into that. So one of the important aspects of that. So when we presented it much better. And 23-24, we achieved 1 lakh youth for the first time in our history. And when I say these numbers, I want you to understand that Unnati does it offline. This year, 25-26, we are attempting 2 lakh youth across the country offline. No organization in this country can boast of that. There is no question about it. We are doing offline in 14 states. We are talking of training in the rural areas, 86-87% of our youth trained are in the rural areas, and we are giving government youth jobs over 30 odd percent, with 35% also going into higher education. That's the kind of impact measurement here, able to prove it time and again, and it's keeping on improving on that. So this could happen because of the internal strength which we created. Right? So I would like to definitely put across third thing which happened for Unnati is the IT intervention. You cannot do scale without IT intervention. And we realized it when we went into this. We realized that yes, strengthen your backend. Strengthen your backend so well that you are able to not just give them the requirements in minutes, but also to ensure that you are over it and on top of it. It's a very important element which many times our NGO friends miss out. They look at it as an initial high cost and then keep postponing. But I think this is a very important element which has helped us to scale, to be able to report faster, to be able to report more accurately. And there are so many tools available these days. So it is possible. So I think these were some of the great things which happened in Unnati during this journey. Right? This is very important. The second part of it, which I would like to take up, is about what all can be done better, right? Because I would like to take up on that aspect. Um, so one, I am repeating, does the donor recognize? Does the donor recognize SSC listed organization? We talked about registration. Very, the SSC has been very thoughtful in saying that if you are registered and not listed in 2 years, your registration will go off. It's a very important element because there were people who registered. Registration is probably maybe 10% of listing. Right? So, so people thought registration and that could give them, but this new rule has definitely pushed them to make sure that you register and then you are ready during the next 2 years. You are ready to actually go for listing. Otherwise, there is going to be a black mark on it. So So it's a very important thing. So I would suggest that we should look at how do you popularize this among donors, companies. Of course, you mentioned in a fleeting remark that CSR and then what is the kind of shape it is going to happen, where it is, how much it is going to happen. We are yet to go there. In a country where a person asks, sir, your life insurance policy, what is the tax benefit I will get? When it is covering your life, sir, it is a necessity, sir. If something happens to you tomorrow, your family is taken care of. Ah, yeah, all that is perfect. What is the tax benefit? In a country where somebody is buying this beautiful ad, it was a beautiful ad, he is buying a yacht, kitna deta hai, in terms of kilometers, right? The oil. Yes. So I cannot imagine that we have a donation thing. You mentioned ATG. Parallelly, if you see the ministry is talking of 92% getting into the new regime. Where is the ATG? It's not there. Right? It's no longer there for anybody. So the ATG is a redundant thing for anyone. My point is, how do you attract a person from Assam to give money to Unnati? Two things. One, credibility, which is again I'm saying the donor has to know why he should look at this platform and donate. Second, where is the incentive? Where is the incentive for a donor? Sir, my donor gives me not because of SSC. My donor does not give me 1 rupee because of SSC. He gives me because he knows me for 30 years, he believes in me, and he has total trust in me. Who has to give me money? Somebody from Assam has to give me money. He does not know about SSC. He is not getting any benefit. He says, I will give my 10,000 whether I give it to Unnati or to the local person, somebody in Assam. So, what is the difference? So, unless you give some kind of income tax benefit, whatever rule it comes under, I understand that ATG is different, but you had a 35 CCD when you gave 35, so there is a 35 CCD even now available. So there are various clauses. Why can't you look at a clause where you bring in for SSC? You are telling that this SSC is so important. As a country, you are saying, for me, SSC is so important because I want 30,000 crores to come into SSC and then get into the market so that I can measure the impact of that 30,000 crores. But how are you going to do that when you don't make that happen? So this is something which definitely, because raising money for an NGO is always difficult. Second thing is the time limit. We open an issue 5 days and it is over. In an IPO, you have enough time, the merchant bankers are working, everybody is working. So how do we actually be able to project this aspect of an NGO saying that I want to go into this thing in January, much earlier, and publicize it and say that yes, we can raise money in that time. How do we make that happen, kind of thing? I don't know how many of the NGOs here have faced this issue. We have started facing this issue. There are many big NGOs, they will tell you this. Companies have a compulsory audit of their CSR when they give over 1 crore. Companies now are telling, if I am a big company, I am giving 10 NGOs 1 crore, 10 crores. They have to do impact measurement of 10 NGOs because they have given over 1 crore. Rajitha is reasonable with us. I don't know about who's saying, but the companies tell that the impact measurement cost for them varies from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs per organization. Now, a CSR company who is spending 10 crores has to spend additional 1 crore to complete the audit of the organization where they have paid more than 1 crore. The CSR company says, why should I do this? Can I not give this 1 crore to one more or two more institutions and avoid it or give it 98? Now I am getting 99 point this one as my request for proposals. Right? They don't want to cross 1 crore. Now tell me, why can't we look at SSC as a special thing and say, if you are in SSC, you are listed in SSC, and you get up to 5 crores, no need for any compulsory audit, we have taken care of it. Why can't we look at something like that? Because that is going to save a lot of money of the CSR, and it also talks about how you value SSC. It's not just about we valuing SSC. You cannot tell that we value SSC, we are talking of SSC, SSC is a big thing from the government side, and you don't actually showcase that yes, you care for it. So it is very important for you to look at this aspect of compulsory audit of an NGO for 1 crore plus. Can we do something about it? And of course, the most important, the CSR, and I understand that FCRA cannot happen. All due respects to issues across the country, FCRA cannot happen. But at least this part of compulsory audit can be looked at. So these are some of the thoughts which I thought I would put across, and thank you for all of you all on behalf of Gupta ji and Unnati for being here today, participating. I believe that this session could do a lot of good to the society, to the NGO world, and I look forward to many more questions from each of you all to be taken up later. Thanks a lot. Thank you. May I request Pradeep from Blue Sky to give a presentation, but I would request if we can go down.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, can take it forward. Rajesh, take out the chair. Move.
That was very impactful assessment. I said that was a very impactful assessment you made.
Yeah, I think I have to just check on the PPT because the fonts may not be aligned for a boardroom, as we call it in the PPT parlance. So just tell me if it's not visible. I will do the reading out. Um, okay. So, very good morning to everybody. My name is Prajakta and I am a part of Blue Sky. We are one of the panel impact assessors for Social Stock Exchange with ICMBI, SAO. And I am also a certified social assessor. As Sir said, Ramesh sir said, I have conducted the impact assessment for the Unnati listing. So it's always a pleasure coming to this office and to meeting all the folks here. So once again, a very, very good point to all. What, so before I get into the presentation, a couple of things, as Gupta mentioned to me, talk about the registration part of it. I just wanted to show of hands from all the non-profits that are here. Are you not registered on the Social Stock Exchange? Anybody who's not registered, when I say registered, it's registered, not listed. Okay. Okay. So So, which means that you have a fairly good understanding of how registration works on the social stock exchange. But nevertheless, a quick refresher. Has the process been easy or difficult? Again, a quick show of hands. Has the process been easy or difficult? It has been difficult? Okay. Difficult? Alright, and if I were to quickly understand which stock exchange have you registered on? NSE. NSE. Okay. Alright, and how many months ago or years ago that you registered? 6 months back. It took more than 7 8 months. Okay. So, of late, yes, sir.
Can I request that please be free when giving comments back? Please don't look at SEBI CEO.
Yeah, see, as sir is saying, as
That's
Rajesh
a
said,
very important point that he basically then he may be talking a lot and we are putting a lot of emphasis on SEBI. But actually doing it or not. So I think that has hit me. I would like that all of you please speak freely and don't think that I'm here, what you guys think and all. It doesn't matter. Because I think what matters is that whether it should be, making the process easier or not. That's important.
Like your approach, like your approach and emotion. Thank you so much. Appreciate.
yeah, thank you, Rajesh. I think it's important that, like you said, all of us have a candid conversation. First of all, I would also like to start by saying that the progress that was made from the 2019 Finance Minister's speech to the working committee getting created to public inputs being sought after, I followed that process through. And the pace at which it has happened is really mind-boggling. I mean, for an entity like SEBI to be on their feet to respond quickly, and that also got talked about on this podium right now, is goes very far to show that there is commitment. I think all of us are in this together. We all agree that at the starting point, not everything is known, especially in the social sector. We start experimenting things, then we get to know, okay, this is the point that we have reached, we need to go further. And so it's very much a co-creation process, and the kind of partnerships that SEBI has encouraged for the social sector to come forward or organizations such as ourselves to come forward and contribute is really, really significant. So on behalf of the entire community working in the social space, Rajesh, I definitely want to thank you. And it's, like you said, it's a collaborative, open process. We are all learning as we move ahead, and that's the idea. So, talking about registrations, in the recent past, the National Stock Exchange NSE has, as well as BSE, has considerably smoothened the process. NSE especially has now a NEATS platform on which actually all IPOs that they created, they have opened it up for the social stock exchange for entities to get registered as well. So primarily, if an organization is either a Section 8 company or a registered trust or a registered society, they are all eligible. Uh, as folks who have gone through the process would know, yes, documentation is important. Legal, compliance, all of these documents, if they are already in place, it's very, very easy. I have personally assisted two organizations to do their registration. And what was very clear was that if you have the documents being filed again year after year, you just have to go back, pull it out of your files and make them available. In terms of the other eligible criteria the organizations are registered here, the CSR section 135 schedule 7 has been opened up. So there are the line items under the CSR section 135, which if the nonprofits are working in that space, they are eligible. So I think we are beginning to see the starting of that CSR and social stock exchange convergence starting to happen. That's certainly, I mean, the way CSR are opened up for funding a social stock exchange, I think there's going to be no looking back. As a social assessor myself, working with both the nonprofits as well as the corporates, we do get asked this question frequently, and our response is it's coming, it's coming. And when it comes, it will be good for all of us. From Again, the registration perspective, there are some very, very minimum criteria. I was just talking to a few people in the morning today that the criteria are such that you can easily be eligible. So one of them being that at least you spent 10 lakhs in the past 2 years each on social activities, which I think any well-meaning, well-functioning non-profit would do. And the fact that minimum 50 lakh expenditure was done in the last financial year. So again, organizations that are working in this space, I think this is a very basic, like there's a low value essentially. So, from a governance and transparency perspective, I can tell you that hiding away your disclosures in terms of your governing board, their minutes of the meetings, but if you just keep tracking them, having your trustee details handy, any conflict of interest, if they are documented, if they are identified and they are disclosed, that is important. Administrative program expenditures that are done. So being able to categorize what went into administrative and what went into program expenditure. And strong internal controls, like Commissioner also said, that having that and strengthening that, I think that from a registration point of view is going to be very significant. So what we will do now is, I will, there's been any change of plans since we have Dr. S.K. Gupta here and Rajesh also here. What we do is I walk you through my world, which is a social impact assessment, and then we will move into the through a Q&A session on the listing process. Is that fair? Can you take that? Okay. All right. So now welcome to my world. One of the things that got talked about was credibility, being the most important element when we come and talk about the social sector and NGOs. There is trust building, there is visibility required, and of course fundraising because that's the most important. So in my work, we operate on the element of credibility. As I said, I am a certified social assessor. So all of the talk that is happening, which was ICDR, LODR, what is inside it. So I've gone through all of that to prepare for my exam, and then I wrote the exam and I cleared the exam. So and now I'm listed with ICMAI and ICAI board, who empaneled me as a social assessor. So I think, is the font on the PPT visible? Okay, all right, good. So I think enough said about credibility. So why social impact assessment is important, I think we kind of have the answer there because it leads to credibility. One of the key things I wanted to definitely talk about was that when we look at the development sector, everybody has a good intent, good social intent. What the social stock exchange is essentially nudging us to move to is verifiable impact. So it's important to have good intent. We start with good intent, but ultimately, are we moving to a place where we are able to show that yes, we have created this difference or this impact on the ground. The next slide, please. So, talking about the impact architecture, and that's another thing that very early on in the social stock exchange, God said was, how are we going to look and talk about impact? See, one of the key things that we all know as of today in the world of finances, everybody speaks the same finance language. Right? You know the terms very well because it's a common language. Has the same thing happened in impact in our world today? Not really. And we are the only country, by the way, which has mandated 2% CSR, and we are at this pioneering stage of opening up the social stock exchange. So for us, starting to standardize some of that language of impact becomes very, very important. And I must give kudos to the early documentation that happens on the social stock exchange, where a lot of this got discussed very early on. It was not left as an afterthought. It was rather put front and center saying this is the conversation that we should start having. So the three-layer structure that is being talked about here, the first is your FRD, that's your fundraising document. Your draft FRD. So whenever an entity, a non-profit entity plans to list itself, the first thing that they do is create the draft FRD that gets submitted to the social stock exchange. There is deliberation that happens over it. There are questions that get asked. There's a bit of back and forth that happens, which the non-profit responds to. And finally, the social stock exchange accepts the fundraising document. Now, your fundraising document is essentially what you promise. What is your project going to do? What difference is it going to make? And how much money are you going to require to fund that project? That's the first piece. And why I call it as the impact architecture is the starting point is what is it that you're going to do with the money that you're asking for. The second, and again, this is really, really commendable for the working committee that thought about this, was to put in place the solution implementation plan. So we all know that if somebody is going to look at my fundraising document, they should understand the approach that I'm taking to implement my solution. Again, this goes a long way in establishing credibility. How is it? What are the steps that I'm going to take? What am I going to do first? What am I going to do next? So there's a very strong process that has been put into place called as a solution implementation plan. And I exhort the groups that are the NPOs that are planning to this is to pay detailed attention to developing this solution implementation plan. This becomes a part of your fundraising document for you to tell people how is the plan going to deliver. And the last piece of it is, of course, impact reporting and assessment, how impact is going to be verified. Now, as a social assessor, certified social assessor, I do not get the ease of conducting the social assessment whichever way I want. No, I am also regulated by a certain documentation, by a certain process that I follow on the social stock exchange in order to assess, create my report, and submit it back to the social stock exchange. So that is also a system that has been thought through. So moving to the next slide. Now, the FRD elements are broadly like I said. What are we going to promise? I wanted to spend a little bit of time on what the solution implementation plan is. So, the FRD has your problem statement. Now, all of us who come from the development sector have heard theory of change, logic models, etc. We all know that it works in bits and pieces. But here, what we are essentially doing is we are going to articulate this on what is the impact we want to deliver, what outcomes, what outputs to be delivered, activities and input. I think this, the words are very familiar to us, but all of this starts getting consolidated into solution implementation plan. The other very important thing of the solution implementation plan is how are we going to measure, which is our KPIs. So when we are putting out that this is how we will deliver, the next question, which is logical, is how are you going to measure what you have delivered. So KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators. One thing I want to clarify at this stage is that the key KPIs or key performance indicators, we have been given the flexibility to define them the way we want as an organization, which is listing, and they can be both qualitative as well as quantitative. We should just know the method by which we are going to measure them. Okay? And again, KPIs have to be time bound. They cannot be that full life review ho jayega. But because our projects, the listing happens on the social stock exchange as a project, it's important to specify in what period are we going to measure these KPIs. The other important thing that the solution implementation plan also focuses on is what are some of the risks and assumptions. Say what was the, if you are not able to get to delivering your project the way you plan to, why would you not be able to do it? What are the potential things that can go wrong? So one of, again, comes back to credibility. We make certain assumptions about how we are going to deliver. What if tomorrow the scenario changes? What if there are certain exogenous factors that play a role because of which we are not able to deliver what we set out to deliver? So we are being given an opportunity in the solution implementation plan to also talk about it, just in case things were, if there was a COVID happened and should not happen God forbid. But we know such black swan events happen. We know that there are going to be various reasons why a certain approach is not going to work. So we think through them and we list them all out. That is also important for a SIP. Next slide. Okay. Now coming back to the FRD, some of the things that really stand out for the FRD are first defining your social problem very well. Who are your target beneficiaries? Clarifying them. These are some of, I mean, all of us are used to writing proposals. So it's that way the same thing. But important to call out geographies because we know that there has been this aspirational district around for a very long time. So if your program is working in an aspirational district, which is important from government priorities, you should be calling it out. It's important. KPIs already talked about and the budgeted timelines. So the underlying factor is that what you write in your FRD coupled with the SIP essentially becomes what you are promising to do. And the underlying statement is you cannot claim impact outside of your FRD. So be very, very meticulous and clear about what impact the project plans to deliver, who does it plan to work with, if there are any specific inclusion criteria such as aspirational districts or certain groups of people, definitely those should get mentioned and that becomes like your commitment of this is the impact that we intend to do. So when I or anybody else, the social impact assessor comes in, the first place that we go to and look at is what have you written in your fundraising document because that becomes your scope of impact. Okay, so this is the FID why is going to be important for the outside world to see. It is your own promise and commitment also to say that this is the impact that we are going to deliver. Next slide, please. Um, some of the pointers to keep in mind as a social assessor, I would definitely look for that. Over promising scale, like if you are using X amount of money and you have been in this space for a very long time, you know what that X amount of money is going to translate to and how it is going to translate to. So let's be very specific about what we are promising in terms of scale and be it says over promising, but basically be sure that what we are committing that will be delivered. Specific outcomes that we talk about, let's also start using language where it gets more specific, using words like empowerment and upliftment while they are good to hear, to be here, when it actually comes down to the brass tacks of whether we have delivered what we set out to deliver, they don't really serve us as individual lens I already talked about. Risk assumptions also I talked about. What are, think hard, what could fail, what could go wrong, because we are exposing ourselves to a larger audience. We are also conscious and we are also humble that we have things may not go the right way. What is it that could go wrong? And verifying KPIs, which I also talked about. They could be qualitative, they could be quantitative. Let's not worry about that. But what's important for putting out the KPIs is a message that yes, we are able to measure this and this is how we will measure it. To give you an example of a qualitative KPI, let's say I'm working with a group of students in a school and we are working on entrepreneurship as a topic. And I know that by doing 1 year worth of program, it's not going to make them entrepreneurial in a year's time, right? But in other ways that I can start understanding what are the small behavior changes that the students have started making. Have I set up a mechanism to start observing those changes? For example, I could ask the teacher in the class who's teaching this program. Is it on? Am I audible? Okay. Um, the teacher to start observing certain traits and to keep marking those. That's a good enough KPI to begin with when we know that it's not going to be very quantitative in nature. But the bottom line is we need to know. We need to say that this is the kind of KPI that we are going to be able to measure. Move to the next slide, please. Yeah. Now, like I said earlier, that when the social stock exchange thought was being put together, a lot of work has happened upfront on how we should be talking. So I want to all of us to get familiar with these three forms, which are very important, which are part of the UNXT mechanism. There's the form 2.1, then there's a form 1B, sorry, there's a form 1B, then there's a form 2.1, and then there is a form 3.1. Now, all of the entities which are only registered and not listed have to mandatorily annually fill the form 1B. Now, let me clarify standing on this podium because I get a lot of requests. Is you do not need to, at the peril of me losing some money, you do not need to get an external agency such as mine to do your impact assessment if you are only registered. You have to do a self-assessment. And in the form 1B, it is very clearly listed as to what are the different aspects that you need to submit on. You need to have your financials, you need to have your governance, you need to have how you're talking about impact, what's the magnitude impact you're aiming to talk, what SDGs are you mapping to, what are the different activities that you have done. And I'm saying it one more time, it is self-report. So there is consideration in the stock exchange, social stock exchange to understand that if you're not listed, they're not going to make it very difficult for you from a compliance standpoint. So you self-report. That is what the form 1B takes care of. Now form 2.1 and 3.1 apply when you get listed. So what happens is, like in the case of Unnati's example, if I were to take, when Unnati listed, at the end of its 1 year, it had to prepare the form 2.1. So 2.1 also had things very similar to 1. So in a way you are practicing to write your 2.1 while you stay registered, because when you get listed, you are going to write a form 2.1 which is going to be very similar to 1B. There will be a few additions because now you are obviously listed, you have to become more compliant. So here too, you are talking about at your project level, you are reporting what activities did you do against your solution implementation plan, what have you achieved, and what has been your reach based on the money that you collected, how have you utilized the money, all of that goes into the 2.1. So as a, yes sir.
What will be the variation between 1B and 3.1?
I come to that. I come to that. So think of it like this, 1B and 2.1 are running almost parallel, they are almost similar to each other. Now coming to form 3.1. Now 3.1 is my form. 3.1 is what I fill up. So when I am doing the assessment of, let's say when I did Unnati, I read the FRD, which was submitted to me. Then I read what was put in the form 2.1, what was in the solution implementation plan, what was the monies that was raised on the stock exchange, how the utilization was done, and based on all this assessment that I have done, I put out a form 3.1, which again has a format to it, where I consolidate everything that has been observed there, and that is what it gets submitted to the social stock exchange. So 2.1 goes through the entity and 3.1 gets a stamp of the social assessor and that goes to the social stock exchange. But it's based on, it's like a final consolidated document of all the documents that we picked up. So any questions specific to, so you had a question on 3.1, so you just clear that 3.1 is really not a form that the entity fills, NPO fills, but it's what the assessor fills.
No, just one question.
Sure.
Will all the funds which are raised by the NGO, either without the help of SSC, also should be financial disclosure?
No. No. So it's only what you raise on the SSC that you disclose. When you are talking about the form 1B, anyway you have not raised any funds on the SSC. There you will talk about what has been your financials overall and how have you, what activities have you done and what is the impact that you should, the outcome that you should. Yeah, Shraddha.
Though it is not mandatory, you said after registration in UNXT, 3.1 is not mandatory.
P.1
3.1
is?
is not mandatory, you are just registered and not listed.
Yeah, 3.1 is not applicable if you are just
Yeah,
registered.
but isn't it good to have, suppose you are planning listing, you suggest that voluntarily if you do this from a third party assessor, your credibility improves and your possibility of getting attracting funding is that is it good to have practice?
It's absolutely true. In fact, when you start the listing process, at that time you will need an impact assessment to be done as a part of the documents that you submit. My point was earlier, which was on the have 2 years time to still list, right? So if you are annually going to renew, then your Form 1B, which is self-declared, it doesn't need to have any assessment there. So to your point, now you start thinking about this. So I think the process right now, as far as the entities that are looking to this, they are going through this process of doing the impact assessment so that they know that they have gone through the process before they list, and that becomes a part of the listing document also that they submit. So this is the difference. Thank you. Moving to the next slide, please. Okay. This is a little bit further sort of double click on the 2.1 form. What the NBO fills in terms of the 2.1, which is program progress, KPIs, outputs. Section C is where I as an assessor start filling. The 3.1 is like a final culmination, but in the section C, the independent validation starts. So when we undertake an impact assessment for the forms that are submitted, we conduct our whole validation in terms of one, we ensure that there is a independent assessment and surveys and field validation done with the beneficiaries. So we will take a sample of the beneficiaries and we will talk to them. So we collect our own data independently. We will validate it against what has been submitted by the non-profit in the sections that we would have written up. We will identify there are any gaps, there are any uh, risks that we come across based on what we have observed and the recommendations. So the section C is far more detailed. The 3.1, like I said, is a culmination of all of this together. And what we will look at in the section C is, like I said earlier, the solution implementation plan has to be aligned. There are something called as SaaS standards. There are social audit standards that were created again as a part of the social stock exchange ecosystem. There are 16 such standards. I would encourage all of us to go back and read up those standards. They are available on the internet. There are 16 standards. So depending on which standard is applicable to you based on the program that you are running, definitely look at there are guidances given on what are the kind of KPIs you can construct, what are the kind of assessment that will be done. It's a good guide for anybody who's setting up their KPIs within an organization to refer to because that is my audit standard. When I am going to do an assessment, I am going to look for does it align with the SAS standards or not. KPI appropriateness, we talked about that. Yes, sir. Kumar,
Regarding section C, any reassessment is there for this grant and recommendation. Would you give the report? Any reassessment requirement is there?
by reassessment, you will get a report.
That's total as problem. Would you give a recommendation whether that has been implemented or not implemented or what is
Yes.
required? Any reassessment is there?
There is now in the case of if you continue to remain listed, like if you are doing second year, third year listing, we will go back and we will look at those recommendations if they have been incorporated.
So this is starting point of our next assessment.
Yes, because you will be submitting your last assessment report along with your next FRE. So any recommendations that were made there, you will have to give a point by point assessment of what recommendations have got implemented. Okay, if they have not been, the reasons also.
Recommendation is based on system gas or something other than that?
Recommendations are based on the program. If for example, when we are conducting the independent assessment and we have done some valuation with the beneficiaries, our understanding comes up to be slightly different than what was noted in the form. Then we will come back with those questions. And if there have been observations on either the reach or the quality of the program implementation across the geographies that have been stated, those will cover us that we need to be strengthened. So those need to be worked on during the next FRD that is created. So it becomes a cyclical loop basically. We're not dropping what we did earlier, we're picking it up and we are progressing further.
Is there any support from NSC for those who are listed, not at what funding, do they
Those are registered.
register and then there is support from the NSC which will help us to give some visibility to the donors or how is it will happen?
I think we'll have a Q&A related to all this later.
Yeah, maybe we should just finish through the assessment. Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay. So moving on to the next slide, please. Okay. This is a little bit of insight into what the form 3.1 will contain. It's a little hard to read through this. So, as I said earlier, um, we will sign off and certify the impact. We submit it to the SSC and this becomes publicly available. Uh, it will obviously, the donors who come to it the next time, they will have access to these documents. Even individual investors going forward, I believe, are going to have access to all these documents. These are mandated to be also put up on the website of the entity that has listed. So if you, as Ravi sir was saying, if you go to the Unnati website, you'll find very, very excruciating details of documentation that in fact, even when I had to reference something, I would into the website to get details of these are all the documents that are listed there. And what does social stock exchange really expect from all of this as we put together the impact assessment? So one is whenever a project is getting listed, have we done the baseline, have we done the assessment? I think this any project that we undertake in the development sector is one of the first things. But now here it is getting documented and it is getting visible to everybody. What is the end of the assessment we have done? What is the evidence of the program activity? Whether we collect data regularly, are there, if we have, let's say, multiple locations, there are pictures from those activities that are taking place. So it's important to also start standardizing how do we, as a non-profit, collect evidences with regularity, with a proper understanding that this all is going to gather together to become our evidence for the future. So it's not about, not that I anything specific, but let's say I work with non-profits where they are working in 10 sectors and 7 sectors, 10 pictures regularly, so 3 sectors and more. So then the question becomes now, is this not a part of your process then that you're supposed to send pictures of all activities happening? Now that's the question that needs to be asked and it has to get into your SOP. It has to become a standard operating procedure, which is what essentially all of this, role as we are going through is going to help us start getting more and more disciplined about. The SSC also expects us to look at project monitoring dashboards and reports. So is there only a one-time end of program report or are there annual monthly reports, weekly reports, whatever is the typical cadence. So that's another thing that I have to finally say that yes, I have that. I look at the regular dashboards here, in the weekly, monthly, depending on the nature of that. Then what I will be asked by the SSC is, have I conducted independent studies to assess the impact? Have I done my homework? So that whether it be quantitative studies or qualitative studies, what is the methodology that I have used? What are the questions that I have? So even the questionnaire that I create for doing this independent study, I have to submit. And documentation of deviations and risks. We talked about the risk recommendations. So this is what the SSC expects us to also get aligned on and submit. So just as I said earlier, that it's not that I can do the impact assessment the way I want to do it. There has been thinking that has gone behind it, that this is a structure that we will follow. And having worked several years in the impact assessment and the data space, I can definitely vouch for it that it's a brilliant starting point to have. We have all the ingredients right. Yes, there can be some screws that can be tightened, some nuts and bolts that can get stronger. But and again, like to iterate that the foundation that has been laid for the impact infrastructure is really well thought out. So moving forward to the next slide, please. Okay. So just something from experience based on what we have seen for first time nonprofits that are coming to the SSC. Uh, let's not treat impact as a learning exercise. When you are writing your FRD, have your impact thinking how it will be tracked, what will be done. Even before you bring the social impact assessment into the picture, it's important to do that front load thinking. So having the right data, so Ramesh talked lately about strengthening our data systems, having strong data systems to capture. Tech has become cheap, AI has also become cheap. So I think it's all of the tools are now available to our disposal. We have to just think through what's going to work for us. It has to be the right tools, obviously. But having data to begin our program, why did we start our program? Those are important things for our projects to definitely consider. Confusing outputs with outcomes, I think that's a thing that all of us go through very frequently. I can see some smiles in the audience, so I know that the pain is a very pain. It's a shared pain. So I will not say more about that. Um, the other thing on negative outcomes, so there's another fantastic thing that has happened in the whole infrastructure or impact for the SSC also is talking about unintended outcomes. So I should also call this out as a very, very positive thing. Because in the what we have seen in the development sector, we want to talk about all things that happen well, but we know for the fact that many of projects fail, many initiatives don't end up the way they were expected to. And there's another thing that's being able to also think through what could be some of the unintended outcomes of our interventions. Again, I know that all of us who work in this space do think about them, but we not had a place where we could just say jot it down or put it away for the future. Now, this is something that is actively asking you to engage on what are some of the negative unintended consequences. It's called PUNO, unintended negative outcomes. So in the FRD, in the SIP, this question is there. So we need to think through this question as well. And again, the system wants us to be transparent, let us be transparent. Agar failing होगा तो यहाँ there could be something that could go wrong. Like when we did like when we worked with UNXT, we spent time thinking about what are the unintended consequences and we did come up with. We did realize that yes, there are unintended consequences of, let's say, focusing on youth, especially in the rural communities. There are other social issues that we talk about. So we need to talk about that. If not, just say no. Yes, they have to be listed. They have to be listed. And then data systems, that's what we already Rachel talked about it. This gives us an opportunity to start thinking about what are some of the programmatic data that we need to collect right into from the start of our project before we can even come to the impact phase. So as we are planning, so other things that has happened is when you have got to your FRD, when you have gone to your SIP, after that is done, you will recognize that that process is already making us think about impact ahead of its time. So we're thinking about what will we deliver and then start working towards it. I think that's a good conversation shifter because all of us know that, and I have been on the other side of things as well. When the assessor comes or the auditor comes, when you carry that, what documents should I put together? Let's start preparing our early on. Everybody can become simple. So these are some of the things that the SSC is helping us also to get lean about and get in shape about. Alright. Finally, I think this is the last slide. Yeah, this is the last slide. So, so some from a social impact assessor practitioner, my recommendations that I put out here. I spent time talking about the FRD and the solution implementation. That design together. Let's not have one language in the FRE and another language emerging in the SIP. Both of them need to be done together so that they are consistent. Because when the assessor will come and look at it, they will want to definitely look at both of it together. And if the language is different, it's going to cast some aspersions on how the project is actually done. Build basic data systems early, I talked about it. Track inclusion intentionally. We all know that government has certain areas that it focuses on, be it gender inclusion, be it rural inclusion, be it aspirational districts, all of that. It's there in your program. definitely talk about it, start collecting the data from that perspective, so those tracks are already available for everybody to see. Document deviation honestly, like programs don't run on the field the way they were expected to. Um, let's document that, let's keep it ready. That last point is engage assessors early and not at the end. So the reason I say that is what I also alluded to earlier, that it is about thinking about the impact at the beginning of the project, not at the end of the project. So, as a part of the FRD creation, we are committed to do that. We are committed to help you to build the SIP and the FRD. And of course, we will, after that, the legal will take over because it's a lot of legalese that goes into the FRD. But the basic structuring of the program, what we are going to measure, how we are going to measure it, if that's something that you want, to think through, definitely available for that. And that just sets the stage for this is how the program is going to take up and this is what the program is going to deliver. So with that, I end my talk. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Any questions that you have for me before we move on to the listing part? Yes.
No, impact assessor, what I heard was there should be a third party, right, independent. But the same breath, you also mentioned that you could be involved in helping creation of this FRD. So is there not a conflict or the same agency can do both or it should be different? If you are using your agency, for example, in preparing for the listing, creating of SIP, FRD and all that.
So
Can,
that's a good question. Our separation will come from the two engagements. So if I am going to be the social impact assessor and I sign on to the assessment, then I should not be involved from my organization to do this. So the separation
Right.
is at a personal level. It's as a SAO, independent SAO, we are there in the ecosystem to share and help.
So as at a firm level, you're saying the same firm can be engaged for the initial part, but when you sign off as an assessor, you should not have been involved. That's the only.
That's a separation that is absolutely required.
Yeah, fine, thank you.
We can have a Q&A round together now. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Request the speakers to please join us on stage, and also we have Mr. Surya Narayan who will be representing Unnati.
So you got a bit of an inkling or an information awareness about what social stock exchange is all about and how to go for registration on the social stock exchange. Just a kind of a recap, the basic eligibility conditions prescribed are your organization has to be involved in some kind of an activity which is based on the philosophy of social intent and social objective. And your organization has to be either a trust or a cooperative society or a Section 8 company. And you must have that income tax 12A and things like that. Your PAN must be at least 3 years old. That's also one of the requirements. And then your minimum spend during the last year should have been 50 lakh and your fund generation during the last year should have been 10 lakhs. That's the basic criteria that's been prescribed in the regulations. Now, when you actually apply to either NSC or BSc for registration, you can, once you have decided to go for registration, you can check out their website. On the website, you'll find an application form, and you will also get a frequently asked questions set kind of thing. And any further help that you may require in the whole process of registration, we all are there to support you. I mean, ICMI, Social Auditors Organization, Madam Prajakta, who is the Social Impact Assessor, the two exchanges, NSC, BSc, and of course the SEBI, the super regulator. We are all there to help you out. You can reach out to any one of us or all of us together, and we are there to help you out in the whole process. So let's break the discussion into parts. So this is what the registration is all about. Any questions about registration that you may have, let's explore and respond to that.
So just I wanted to say a few things before you ask your questions. My having come here is actually, I will be more interested in understanding the difficulties that you may be facing. Let me put it very, very easily to very straightforward is that in terms of seeking query on how to list, how to go about the impact assessment, how to go about the registration, probably we have, the experts here who would definitely be in a position to clarify your doubts. But I would be very happy to understand where is that we are facing the difficulties. What are the irking points? What are the pain points in terms of registration, in terms of getting listed, in terms of getting your social impact assessment done? So this would be probably, I would be looking forward to carry back with me, and take it as part of my further policy development. And I would request that any suggestions or any pain point that you may be mentioning should be slightly basic, so that we would be sometimes probably, if you are going to be highly broad about it, then I would not be able to get the actual point about it. So kindly go ahead, sir, please. I mean, you may please ask you. Just kindly one moment.
I just wanted to add, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Suri Narayanan, ex CFO of Emphasis Limited. I also was involved in the Unnati listing, the first listing NGO to get listed in India, considering my corporate background. I just wanted to also mention about the registration process. Unnati, I mean, I think we are proud, not only the fact that we were the first ones to get listed, but the registration, and this is where we would like to thank NSC and SSA and the SCB. We got the registration done within a week of our application. And I think the real background why that speed happened was the fact that all our documentation was in place. I think that's the first hygiene factor, which many organizations naturally, considering the fact that they are not corporate set up, they might have initial challenges. Once the documentation, and these are all basic documentation which are required for registration, if they are in place, the registration happens virtually in a jiffy. And I must really compliment the exchanges and SEBI to make it so smooth, and it's extremely easy. We'll now take any challenges you people had in the registration, and then we can go to the listing.
So, to everybody, we are already registered. Now we are going to go ahead for listing. But we have been advised that we should be taking some consultant who will help us in listing. So for Unnati, for you, sir, and also to Ramesh, sir, do we need, even to Rajesh, sir, do we need to engage a consultant who will help us in listing? Or can we do the way we registered directly through the website?
I'll just share from our experience. See, in Unnati, we never had any consultant per se. We had Unitis, who is more like a small merchant banker, but that was just to put some slides together. But for the fundraising document, you do need a legal firm who can draft that. And that is the only requirement. Otherwise, if you are you are convinced in what your objectives are, and because that gets captured in the fundraising document, and it's not very difficult if you are on top of what you're doing.
Okay, so one of the things which this so-called consultant who has been pitching to us, and we, the senior management and the board, are just wanted to come over and just check with you. They said that we need to get ourselves listed in these as Central Depository Service Limited, National Security Depositories Limited, and then we need to also get an RTA. Also, we require, and then we have to do engage ourselves for ISIN. All these listings are there, which was like it was going beyond
Yeah.
our understanding.
Yeah.
So
maybe
is these
I'll-
are part of the, yes, this is for
Yeah,
Rajesh sir.
Yeah, so this is required, but I'll request Mr. Rajesh to explain the rationale behind the requirement.
And also, sir, is there any process to smoothen it? Because these this are quite mouthful for we NPOs.
Ma'am, first of all, the law doesn't require you to engage any consultant as such. So it's actually, the process are quite simple actually. As regards depositories, even they are quite adept and they have actually put all the information on their websites. It's probably a requirement of someone going through their website and understanding the requirements of how do you get, registered with a depository, because, your entire issue would be in a demat mode, and it would require that all these instruments what you're going to issue, ZCZP, will have to be in the demat account of the donor. So therefore that's how the situation, I mean, that's how the entire process is required. Similarly, an RTA is required for the purpose of allocation, while there is not much process involved in the allocation, because it's basically whoever applies, they all get the, whoever donor applies, they all get the instruments in the demat account. I mean, I would only request that you may have to spend some time, because while all this process, while it appears to be, while there appear that there are too many intermediaries or too many, entities involved in the entire process, but if you actually, just go through those websites, it's quite easy actually.
Sir,
It's like opening your own account, how you have to go through. It's actually done there for the purpose of ease as well as safety of the entire, ecosystem. That's all.
Sir, is there anything which you would like to recommend for NPOs? So because if there is one single site where we can just go through it.
I would
and-
request that you please keep on coming for more issues. What else? You bring out. I mean, you must be having a good amount of, probably target audience what you're looking at. So I think you can keep raising funds and do the good what you intend to do, please.
One more thing I wanted to, it's for Prajakta ma'am. Ma'am, you said that listings. Okay, so if I go, we work on 3 thematic areas: health, education, and livelihood. If my first listing goes for livelihood, in my second listing, can I go for health, or should I continue doing for livelihood?
Absolutely, you can, because it's project based. So you can define your project based on what your thematic areas would be. So there's no compulsion that the same thing has to come back.
Because
to
you
list.
have mentioned that you need a complete, if I can use the word, that is it because of for the organization you're looking at over the period when you're doing impact assessment?
No, it's very
For the impact-
project based. No, it's project based. So my earlier example that I gave, if you were coming back for a second listing of the same project, then whatever you have done in the past and the recommendations that were given, those need to be implemented. If you're coming with a brand new project from the existing organization, then it will not be applicable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Answering your query. Take example for Unnati. We have around 25 to 30 crores is the annual CSR funding which we get. What we did, the first listing was less than 2 crores. And it is identified a specific set of projects which we'll use those funds for. It is for that 2 crores for which we did the social impact study post the listing. So it is not necessary for the remaining part of the money which we got through the CSR funding. And we did the second follow-up issue, and then we're doing the third. Again, we have identified a subset of a project for which these funds will be used, and that's for the same funds usage is where the report will be issued.
Got it.
So I hope that clarifies.
Yes, got it.
So you can have multiple, lines of your activities, and for whichever activity you decide to raise funds for, and for that particular uh, quantum of funds, is which you have to issue the report.
And so last and final
Sure.
question, if I can ask you, what was your fundraising for the first listing, second and third, if you can disclose?
Yeah, it's all there in the website. So it was about 1.5 crores in the first,
Wow.
about close to 40 lakhs, and this we are just working out the numbers.
Thank you so much.
And the other point which you said with respect to the NSDL and CDSL, see, I think, I mean, it's not, I agree that every common man doesn't go to the stock exchange to buy shares or sell shares. But as Mr. Rajesh had initially in his speech has mentioned, now there is no question of, earlier if you recollect, all your parents or etc., they used to have physical document of shares. Now everything is dematerialized. So the whole objective of putting all this into the demat account is to ensure the donor has a record of the donation to which organization he has subscribed to. It's more of a transparency and ensuring there's a proper documentation. It's not some document. Suppose you're giving some money to Unnati, we just give you one receipt. That, and when you subscribe in the issue, that is not a proper document. There needs to be a proper document which is there for eternity, so to say, that you have contributed. And that's the whole purpose of this dematerialization.
Thank you, sir.
It's for the project. It's a subset of the organization, naturally. Not necessarily. You can combine everything. But each one has to see, you have for each project, suppose you're raising 1 crore, and you have to mention if there are 3 projects, for each project, which amount is you're going to utilize. So that's important.
There is a life of your listing, sir. So once the project is over, or 2 years, whichever is early, the listing goes off. So if you raise funds within those 2 years, probably you get a new ISN, Prajakta? How is it? No. You get a new ISN for a second project, or it will be the same ISN? ISN will be same, I think. No? Same. Yeah, same. Yeah, it will be same ISN. So basically, it's actually to identify, see that the listing is always of the company, but the project is what you are getting listed for. That is what you will be giving your, your filings and your disclosures. So some of those disclosures will be about the company, and some will be about the project. So combined, you will be giving the disclosures. So actually, it gives a credibility to the entire organization itself, because of a small amount of fund you're raising. You can raise up to 50 lakh, easily you can raise 50 lakh. Suppose even for 50 lakh you're raising, and your organization is handling a higher amount of donation, suppose, but still it will give you a credibility to the entire organization. So that's how it is. So that's left to you actually. Whenever you see, if you're ready with the project, 2 years, sir. Within 2 years, you have to come out with an issue. So basically, the 2 years is given so that you have sufficient time to prepare yourself, and you may be, see, I mean, the best would always be that you have a project. You would like to come out in the, let's say, in the immediate future, which can be 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it is. In the meantime, you go for registration. So you go for registration, you understand the process, like Prajakta she explained. So what will happen is that once you register, we're very clear about the processes involved there. And therefore, the visibility always comes to you immediately, the moment you get registered. Now, the next part will be of the project, which will be for the listing. So that can take place as per your convenience and as per your project. It all depends on that.
You had a
Hi, I'm Sriram, United Way of Bangalore. First of all, thank you for the great understanding. I have been pestering Dr. Gupta, but I thought for a very long time, which is SSC. Thanks for the patience. My question is very simple, basic. I'm not even getting into these aspects of technical aspects of this thing. Perfectly, you understand all that. I'm just trying to play a devil's advocate over here. Um, what are those inhibitions of why NGOs who register are not going to the listing stage? I just want to point out a couple of inhibitions, at least for me. I'm not talking about everybody, I'm not trying to steal from others. My inhibition is okay. When SSC was introduced, 2020 to 2023, the discussion was around, okay, here's going to be a marketplace which is going to reduce my effort in terms of fundraising, which is going to give me this additional cushion that I'm not getting as an NGO right now because we are dependent too much on CSR, which comes with its own values. So that was the whole understanding, and that is how we were looking forward for getting into the social stock exchange to see that I can get this additional funding cushion that I'm not getting otherwise. Now, in this current structure, and we talk about the current structure of how SSC works, there is this mandatory 75% funding that has to happen, otherwise, whatever you raise has to be withdrawn, right, within a particular stipulated period of time. Which means that I do a listing after going through all this process, like I really like the way Rajesh put it, that it's very simple. We go through all these simple processes and we do the listing. And it seems that I have to put additional resource, additional effort in ensuring that I have my 75% pipeline intact. Otherwise, whoever is contributed also have to return the money back, which is the biggest risk of credibility that the organization has to take on. So in this current structure, why would I, as an NGO, even take this whole effort of getting into the SSC when it is only adding to my pressure and efforts? In this current structure, I need to say. So that was my basic question. So instead, I just go to my funding and get my funding to my account and do the implementation, do the practice. But what is SSC going to help me for all this effort in this current structure?
Very nicely put it, and probably I mean a question which is very pertinent at the same time. Not very easy to actually uh, how would I say it? Not very easy to show to the donors. How do you actually give a credibility? Because there are multiple answers. Probably all of those would be English. Right from saying that if you get listed, you can, and if you go for listing, probably you can get donors from any corner of the country and all those things. That's one part of it. But I understand the pain point. So the question there would be, what is the right percentage of funds which should be deployed? That's one part. So probably at that juncture when we decided, we thought 75% is probably a amount which is good enough to show the intention, right? So you may have to think through what would be the right percentage. If you look at the listings on the main board, other than SSE, it is actually today 100%. And if at all you want to change those, the object, you may have to go through the process of taking approval of the shareholders there. So here probably we do not have that kind of a mechanism. But whether you want that kind of a mechanism that in case, because you want to go back to the donors and say ki I have not been able to deploy, let's say 40%, and I would like to probably go in for assuming for a new project or an extension of the project, right? So whether that is feasible, that's what comes to my mind, instantaneously. But then there could be more ways of looking at it. So what I'm trying to say is that what is the right percentage which would give a confidence to the donor. Today, the moment you say 75, probably he has got a good confidence ki yes. So below that, probably it cannot be done. But when you go on your own without a listing, probably there is no requirement of such requirement as such. I understand that, but what I'm trying to say here is that every time probably we may not be able to compare with the process what happens when you are not in the public domain, and in the process what you would have to follow when you're in the public domain. Because when you're in a public domain, probably a different or a higher standards are actually required. And if it's a pain point, it can be reduced, no doubt about that. But then you may have to come out with a percentage or a solution what could be good. We are here to listen to that. So I hope I have been able to articulate some of those. I agree to your pain point, no doubt about that. Just kindly, I think she wants to say something.
I want to add, no, actually, I want to add, standing alongside you only. And the point I want to add is that after the FRD is accepted, we get 6 months to list. Yeah. But once the listing is on, we get only about 10 days to close the issue. Yeah. So I think that's definitely a cause of a lot of distress, because in 10 days you have to finish it off. The questions that I get from NPOs, when, I mean, we are also in the process of pitching social stock exchange to nonprofits that we work with. The question is, why can't it remain open longer, especially if we are now trying to get retail money also attracted to the social stock exchange? A 10-day window is only going to be sufficient for the legwork that was already done for raising the funds, right? It's not going to be able to attract people from the outside. So, any reason why that has been so, and any thought that is being put into opening that window longer, given that retail funding is also.
You would like to say something? You can kindly.
Perfectly good. This is the question that I asked her also.
Okay.
And another point, just to add a dimension to that, why is it a big one? Take for example, established organizations which can afford to do all this. It's fine because SSC was looked at as a platform where those grassroots organizations that are actually struggling to even get this airdrop funds should get benefit out of something of this stuff. Right now, in its current structure, it is not. Because not many grassroots organizations would not even have this capacity to actually look at something of this sort. So it is like the analogy, the rich getting richer, right? So that platform's major objective, what it thought would happen, is not happening. This is only, it looks like an elite kind of a platform where only the elite organizations can come in and do all this process. That's number one. Number two, right now another pain point is the 6 months, yes, of course, you have the 6 months period where we can line up all the foundation grants or whatever it is because CSR is not proper to SSC at this point. So what it does is the pain point for me as an organization is I'm not able to tap the foundation or multilateral or bilateral or even retail investors because we are dependent on CSR. The only reason why we're looking at SSC is it will attract the foundations of HNI to HNIs without a lot of effort from my side. But with this current structure, I'm going back to zero again. 6 months again, I have to run behind foundations and HNIs and multi-HNIs. And I'm only looking at SSC as a routing platform, which I don't, I mean, that's not what my intention is, right? Yeah. So why do I need to go for a routing platform? Because I already have my credibility. I have my guide star, I have my ISO, I have my cultural registration, I have my CSR registration. So I'm not looking at a credibility building platform, neither am I looking at a routing platform. In that situation, the current structure of SSC doesn't seem to be anything which is going to help me as an organization to grow, but rather that a good certificate to have that I am also listed in SSC and going to my donors and saying.
So what are your suggestions on that? That's important.
My suggestion is reduce that pain point, which is like within 10 days you have to raise this much amount of funds, which means that I have to put in 6 months of effort. Rather, reduce it to a percentage which is easily achievable, say like 20% or 30%, where I can actually get it done. Open it longer for the retail investment platform. And also try to see if a percentage of CSR can also come in through SSD. I don't know what the regulations and frameworks are, I'm not the expert there. So that it becomes easier for the grassroots organizations also to go in there. And see, okay, I can ask my corporate donor to see my credibility in SSC, so the corporate donor can also fund. Retail investments can also happen through that. In the current structure, at this point of time, it's not. So these are my suggestions and frameworks that I would want.
Just to answer you both of your question on the 10 days period for the kept open for the purpose of subscription. I think here my initial reaction would be it can be looked into, but what would be sufficient would have to be stated in so many words, because I personally feel that today the entire process, I mean, if there is a sufficient visibility, even probably 10 days is too much. I feel so. I'm not saying that I mean so, but I'm just saying it. By keeping it open for a more number of days, if it's going to help, why not? But what is sufficient number of days? You will have to say so, because See, today, we have actually, over a period of time, we have actually come down with the number of days the issues kept open. But probably I may be comparing with the main board, which may not be the right way of doing things. No doubt about that. See, there was a time probably when the issue used to be kept open for a month. So probably 1.5 months used to kept open, and today we have come down to 3 days in the main board. So here we kept it for 10 days, looking at the situation, knowing very well that probably this has to be dealt differently, no doubt about that. But still, there's a case made out that it needs to be kept open for a slightly higher number of days. We're open to look at it, provided we have a proper case made out for that. Because believe me, yeah, you have this one perspective coming out from this place. Probably we'll have more perspective coming out from. Yeah. So this has to be looked into from a broader perspective. Like I said, already said reduction of percentage. I said it's again can be looked into. But what is a good percentage? Again, I said there'll be a lot of perspectives over that. So how do you give credibility to it? Today, 75 gives a good credibility. You bring it down to 50. You bring it down to 40. Is it something people would accept? So you may have to look at it from that perspective also. So you
Especially, Shivram, since in the FRD, there has to be a mention of the reach number of beneficiaries. I think it is also telling of the organization that if so 75 you will still hit some numbers, but let's say it came down to 10-20% of the funds that you want to reach, you essentially are not able to run your program. So that's another consideration which organizations will also need to think about. But yes, point noted that should it be 75, should it be less than, what's the number it can come down to, but not at the peril of the project itself potentially getting so downsized if the amount raised is very, very small. So that's something that we need to think about.
Yes, yeah, exactly. CSR, like I said, I already mentioned as part of my talk that we are looking at it, but it's not actually in the hands of SEBI at this juncture. It actually, it emanates from the Companies Act. So Companies Act needs to be actually aligned with our thoughts. So we have taken up with them in the earlier also, and we are still in discussion with them. We are trying to get this aligned with what we have said. So SEBI is already aligned with that. SEBI is agreeable to that. But the Companies Act has to be amended to actually ensure that the CSR funds can come to the SSC. So that's what it is. So we are aligned. So that you can be assured of. But how the government would actually come out to be, that has to be seen.
One suggestion, sir, from our side is also, continuing from where Mr. Shira mentioned, I think if some of these platforms like Zerodha is promised to get the SSC, what are the organizations which are going to list into their platform. If other organizations like ICICI or HDFC, all the mini platforms that are there, they also start putting it in their website, that will also give a lot of visibility to the retail investors.
I mean, that's a very, very noble thought, sir. I think I can definitely will work on that, sir. That's a very good thought, sir. In fact, we had a discussion internally that if Zerodha is doing, why not others can do it? So we'll work towards it, please.
So the particular thing that 75% maybe we would have thought that the minimum level should be done. But also, so can it be possible that supposing I will set up a new 100 flat here home, for which let us say 2 crore units, I get 1 crore and then I declare okay I will set up 50. I do not get money for the 100. But I will now set up 50 flats. All the donors, all the investors, ready to. Then second, let's say 10 days is the option, so we will do it. Or maybe let's say 20 days issue is open, money comes. Is there any shortfall? And then promoters come, okay, the shortfall we are doing here. So will that be possible? That was my question to ease out this challenge. Because this really is an issue. I mean, provide everything else from the. My second question was from Unnati, that we just want to know maybe if it is not a very secret. That first issue you came up with 1.5 to 1.8 crore somewhere. So end to end, what was the cost which you would not have incurred had you gone for normal paper? But the incurred probably went for this additional registration. You have to understand that there is stand today income tax. And my third question to this group, are there any underwriters in this platform also? Just we want to are there any? And fourth was that I was said that listing document is easy, so we again have attended one seminar and 20 years. So what we perhaps understand that it is something like 250 pages of documents, which maybe and you may not be having that. So is there we are not going to engage or stand as much somebody as well. So is there hackers which can be created? Maybe can help us in building all those to understand the seriously.
Let me take one or two questions of yours, sir. Which one is that I think you gave a good suggestion about if the funds coming are at a different percentage than what is being raised in the FRD, what has been said to be proposed to be raised. Appropriate suggestion which slightly appeals to me. I'm not saying that I'm not concluding anything on this. Please, these are my personal views. So what I'm saying is that I think you suggested that if you're raising the funds for, let's say, 100 beds, you get for 50 beds. Could you not go ahead with 50 beds also, right? So that slightly appeals to me. So if there are certain objects which can be actually ensured that even by going with an object that you can part, I wouldn't say part, you can do the project provided you don't reach the full amount of the contribution that is expected. So whether that can be looked upon, let me see how it can be. Probably, yeah, it will be. So whether it can be or not, let me see. I'm not very sure on that. Second, on the process, you said you said two things. One was about some underwriter coming in. That's again a suggestion, but I don't know whether if you already have an underwriter, I think kind of who would like to come at the, if the issue is not fully, if I can use the word subscribed, so then probably you already have a donor. But whether it will still be coming to the social stock exchange, I don't know about that. If that can be worked out, fine. Third, there's a concept where I think which we were working on, but that has not completely come out. Whether but that probably would be more relevant to the from the government projects kind of things, where there could be a contributor early on who would do the entire contribution for the for the project, and subsequently the funds get from the government. So that also is possible. But then how that would fit in this framework of presently what you have, where the funds may not be coming to the extent of what you desire. So that probably will have to be worked out. So we may have to apply the minds and see. And I think the rest of the questions, I hope on, yeah, Unnati. I'm just saying, so probably have I, that's what I'm saying, sir. So that's what I'm trying to say is that, sir, like an underwriter or a promoter, if he's already there, uh, so still you would like to come to the exchange, I'm saying. So that part was not slightly clear to me. So
20 days of money, whatever has been raised, you try to promote for further 10 days, then how do you want to bring other money to our section, to satisfaction? For the exchange section, whatever going to pay, that how are you going to put in, and if they are able to maybe confidently prove something that we have some sources that remaining money we give them 10 days more, 20 days the whatever has been raised, 10 days we go.
So practically how it would get implemented may be a challenge, because if you look at it today, what happens is, sir, donors generally come on the last day. Nobody puts it early. So therefore, you may have challenges there. How it would be done, because and secondly, donors, whether they would be ready to be holding on to their amounts, whether subsequently in the 10 days what will happen. Just a thought I'm giving you. So these are all the challenges, but let's see how we can look at it, sir. Correct, sir. I understand that. But let's have a look at this idea, sir, please. Probably it will require some more brainstorming on that. We will do that probably. I'm just giving it back.
So I don't know when you talked about 250 pages, are you talking about the fundraising document?
My question to them was, because the decision we got done video 10 days and so we wanted that district modes also, we will fill up ourselves because we don't have much to do. So just I got up and asked this question.
Sure, sure.
Is there 250 pages legal document, see whether you can fill up right, otherwise you have.
Sure. So let me, sorry. Yeah. So for the listing as such, Unnati did not use anyone for filling up the application for the listing. They are virtually more or less the information which is already covered in your registry. The only additional document is the fundraising document, for which I had also mentioned initially, you need to appoint a legal firm. Because if some of you might be participating in the IPOs, you might have seen their offer document. So that's all legal language in how, because there's a standardization across the IPO, so that SEBI has standardized, so that it becomes easier for disclosures. So people don't have to, any donor or subscriber don't have to look at where each component of the details of the offer is. So there is a structure and a language used, for which you need to use a legal form. That's all. Other than that, there is no requirement for an external consultant, provided you have uh, adequate internal systems and documents ready. And I think the other aspect which Unnati used a lot is, I'm sure all of you or organizations which are wanting to do it, they create an annual report. The annual report is, we are not talking about financials. Financials is naturally a requirement, but annual report is just specifying what are the areas which the organization worked on. This is, I'm not talking related to SSC, but that document which Unnati used to, religiously do it every year, helped us a lot to give the information to the legal firm to create the fundraising document. And because that becomes sort of a framework, and it becomes easier to populate it. Yeah, so the legal firm cost, depending upon the size of the issue, they may charge you anything around 50 to 1,000 to 1 lakh or so. Depending upon your relationship with the legal firm, because I don't want to take away business from the legal firm. Sorry?
I think it's, what's it called? That,
Legal cost kind of thing.
Yeah. So, your fundraising can include these costs as such. And this apart, sir, there is NABARD is giving that capacity fund. From that, they are giving the listing cost also. So I think there is a good amount of funding available there for the purpose of taking care of some of those costs. So kindly be aware of that. Yes, sir.
How to apply and get
That I think. Let me. Are you aware?
Yeah. So you need to apply to NABARD for that. And in fact, this program that we are organizing, ICMEI Social Auditors Organization, this is also being supported by the Capacity Building Fund of NABARD. They have a capacity building fund for doing these kind of programs pan-India. So we applied to them by giving our particular proposal and a particular schedule of different programs. And then they sanctioned fund based on per program cost kind of thing. They initially do it for 5 programs. Once we complete 5 programs, then we go back to them once again and they give us funding for the subsequent. Similarly, you need to apply to them. I can provide you the contact details and where to write and what to write kind of thing. And you also mentioned about the help desk. ICMA, a social auditors organization, is running a help desk where all such queries can be taken care of, because we act as kind of a intermediary agency. We are in connect with NSC, BSc, SEBI on one side, and we are also in connect with the NPOs as well as the social impact assessors. So any query, any support that you require, we can possibly connect you with the right people. And let me also put it in public domain that some of our members do the work pro bono. They don't charge anything for their service. Some, not all. So possibly if you connect with us, possibly we can recommend somebody who may possibly not charge anything at all, or possibly may charge a reasonable amount of fee for supporting you with whatever is your requirement for that matter.
Can I take?
One question I forgot to, no, not question, a request to SEBI particularly, because the system has just started and we are just in the learning process. Initially, can you think of extending 2-year period to 3 years at least?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get the question. What is it?
2 years. 3 years. 3 years. You have to be 3 years old and you.
Yeah. So you are saying to reduce the period from of the existence of the NPO.
Registration and then the gap between registration and it is 2 years. Now you have to make it for 2 years. So initially, to just encourage us to think about and go for this. Can you think of increasing it to 3 years? Increase for 1 to 2.
Sir, I mean, to be very frank, sir, when would you like to go for registration? No, I get that. I get that, sir. My question would be, why are you going for registration?
Registration, we did for credibility, of course. That was our first motive.
So
we have not found any donor who says that I will give only close pocket. No, our donors are ready to give otherwise also. We are getting. So we are yet to find a donor who says, no, I will not give you money. I will give you only when you issue a, maybe I see that instrument. We are yet to get that. So, but one renewal has already happened. So it looks very maybe less time to maybe think about everything. So because we have been learning and gathering from whatever seminar those things.
Sir, my humble submission, sir, 2 years is a good amount of time, sir.
Because we had to take something like 1 lakh, 50,000 to 1 lakh. So many disturbing things are coming up 10 lakh. Where do I bring 10 lakh? So that was also a point which we, so maybe initially if you can help.
Let me take this feedback back, sir. But my humble submission is that, sir, 2 years is a good amount of time. So I think that's why I asked the question, why are you going for registration? If you're going for registration, probably you have something in mind. So my suggestion would be that kindly go for registration when you're at least you have prepared yourself to some extent. So, but anyway, we will have a look at this. No problem on that, sir. We'll have a look at this.
So,
absolutely, sir.
We don't know when we as an NGO, when we wanted to register, we thought that is the final listing is done. But we come to know that this registration that one more thing is listing. So that is where there are also an awareness challenge.
sir, I'm Anu Bhatt from Akshara Foundation. I wanted to point out another pain point which prevents us from listing. We are registered on NSE. But what has stopped us from going in for a listing is we have our projects ready. How do we market ourselves, from the time that the document is out and to listing? How do we market ourselves? Most NGOs are very short on bandwidth, human resources, as well as funds to market themselves. So is there any way SSC can introduce us to, institutional donors? There was talk of Zerodha having contributed to Unnati's. It happens for private organizations, IPOs, before they come out, you find talk of them in the newspapers, at a cost of, you have full page ads. So investors do come to know of these IPOs well in advance. Similarly, can there be at least some write-up some introductions to potential institutional donors. That was one question I had. The second question was, we are registered on NSE. Is there any advantage of registering on both NSE and BSE?
On the first question, ma'am, on marketing. So I think one suggestion I got as part of the discussions was that today Euroda is already doing something with respect to the subscription part. So why don't we get in more such brokers into it? I think that probably let me see if something can be done through them, because today if you compare with a main board listing company, it will be difficult to compare, ma'am, because they have access to a good amount of funds. So that will be difficult to compare. And whether putting some material on the stock exchanges, if it's going to help, we can try that. Whether that will be sufficient in terms of marketing, um, probably I don't think so that will be sufficient, because I don't know what will be how far you would like to reach. That will be important for you. So you may have to decide on that, whether which how I mean how long, I mean, which parts, how geographically you would like to reach out to. That will be important to actually understand that.
So how do we
And
reach out to the retail donor?
that's why I
In
said, ma'am,
investments, it's
let
easy.
me make an attempt if we can rope in those brokers. So if they are giving the facility what Duroda is giving, and through that we can put some pro bono work can we get through them. Let me see. Not very sure on that. So I'm not giving any assurance on that, because how each would be ready. But probably one of the ways would be today, exchanges do have a database of all the investors with them. But whether the existing investors, can they be the potential donors? I don't know on that also, because they may not be, because so they are different sect altogether. So so that also matters a lot. So you may have to give us some ideas how do you identify these potential donors? What is the ways? So today you have a good amount of investors, normal investors in the depository system and the exchange system. So those would be probably different section altogether. So you have to tell us how would you, what will be the potential? How do you reach them? So that probably would give us some impetus in thinking how can we allow some kind of a mechanism where we can reach out to them. That may have to be thought through on that. And the second part was, ma'am, on the
NSE and BSE.
yeah, I think one exchange listing is good, because it will be a cost, not exactly a very big cost factor as such, but I think today one is enough for you. But that's actually left to the because there's no trading going to happen, nothing is going to happen. It's only a visibility in terms of listing and giving credibility to, nothing beyond that.
I have a couple of questions. Among those who are listed already, how many of those have been fully subscribed among those projects that have already been listed?
Sir, I wouldn't. Usage of money or?
No, subscription. When they list, how many have been able to raise the funds that they wanted?
So I can say from Unnati perspective,
All
we
have
more than
listed.
35%.
Yeah.
And both the first issue as well as the follow-up. But we did not have naturally 100%.
Okay. And what happens when it's oversubscribed?
So that's where the allocation comes in. That's where he talked about 3 days period, and where the RTA comes in. Whatever money is received, he does a proportionate allocation. Like in normal IPO. If you're familiar with that, that's what happens when they talked about oversubscription. They do an allocation based on a certain formula. And that's what the RTA does. And that's what his role is, answering Madam's point. So he comes in at the time of oversubscription also.
So one last question, please, because Mr. Dangiti has to leave. Yeah.
Ms. Rajesh, you had asked for some pain points, registration, which we did for. See, initially the response was quite fast, but after a month or two, we got, the format had changed. They had asked a lot of details, I mean, category-wise, the thematic areas they had asked, so we lost some time in that. But after that, after about 4 months, I mean, they came back and said 80G and 12A should have at least 1 year validity, which they could have said, told us right at the beginning when we applied in April. So we had to, time crunch and get, and you may be aware that income tax also is taking its own time. There are a lot of applications filed, and we had to use some known contact and then fast track this. So it took us, and after that, there was a long time in response time. I don't know, but it took us nearly 5 months to get the registration. So now I think it's clear it has to be at least 1 year validity. So for the other applications, we are suggesting that this was the two, I think, time pain points.
Ma'am, I'll definitely get back to the exchanges and probably we'll ask
Yeah.
them to
They can be clear right in the
smoothen the
beginning.
process and
Yeah.
be upfront about all the requirements.
Yeah.
So that nothing is missed out as such.
Yeah.
But generally, I understand that the exchanges are generally upfront about all these things. But in
Yes.
case something has been missed out, we'll ensure it is.
Yeah. The other one is you were asking for a suggestion on where to reach out. I was just thinking maybe, alumni networks. Today, I think a lot of in successful alumni, they of course help their own networks, but there are HNIs, ultra HNIs. These alumni networks are all quite structured. Now you get angel investment, but if you could also tap them and somewhere keep them informed that people want to contribute to good causes, but again they don't know where is the credibility. Maybe you could look at that as one of the sources.
Definitely.
We'll take his.
Please, please, sir.
Because SEBI is a control, regulation is controlled by SEBI regarding the listed investment advisor and MFT. Whether you can take their support or thing to fundraising initiative. Because fundraising is one of the crucial challenges. Because they are well versed with the investor thing and their habits and the saving habits and all those things. Whether those things can be used because the number of MFTs and these investment advisors are more and generally they are spread across the India. They can reach out to the potential investors.
Let me go through the investment advisor regulations, sir. If there is something which bars them doing this, so I'm not very sure on that. No doubt, sir. I mean, no question on that. The situation, what I'm talking about is different because today in the garb of investment advice and research, a lot of things happen, including in the garb of, education. So we have been passing a lot of orders. So that's why I wanted to be cautious on that. It should not result into something different. That's the only reason. But your suggestion appears to be good. So let me have a think on that. So how it can be done. But like you said, only one thing is that probably we should be clear about the audience, target audience. So how will they be able to reach out? But like she said, alumni is a good one because those people may be interested in doing some philanthropy kind of thing and they may be interested in donating. So that may be there. But similarly, let's have a look, sir. Okay, sir. I take these suggestions.
So with that, we come to the close of this very, very interactive session that we have organized. At the outset, I thank Unnati Foundation for hosting this program for us. Thank you so much, Unnati, for all the hospitality arrangements. And I also thank the participants for joining in such good numbers. I also thank Shri Dangiti from SEBI for being inspirational and very, very motivating factor in this whole program. I thank Prajakta Madam for giving an insight with the SIA process and Shri Surya Narayan for his very, very impertinent views. And Mr. Ramaswamy in his opening remarks mentioned his experience of how did he go about registration for Unnati, and 2 listings they have already done and they have already filed for the 3rd listing now, and they are the first NGO to go for this long. I mean, it's a journey, but they have moved quite a bit on that front. So thank you so much, all of you, once again, for joining this program.
Thank you, sir, for delivering the vote of thanks as well. I request Mr. Suryanarayan to just give the guests a token of our appreciation. Request everybody to join us for lunch in the basement.